Sounds like a lot of work.
It's not that much work. I mean, if anyone wants to reach out to me, I could even share an Excel document that'll do all the maths for you.
Okay, well, I'll share his personal telephone number in the comments section.
Don't do that.
Welcome to On the Hunt, the podcast where we aim for success one cold call at a time. I'm your host, Jason Meyer, and today we're joined by Piers Mosselmans.
Hi, great to be here.
Yeah, Piers. Well, SDR Manager for Cognism France.
That's the one. Yeah, I've been here for a while.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna dive right into it. What does the term cold calling mean to you?
Well, cold calling, in a sense, is the purest form of sales. It's the most raw form of hunting, in a sense. So you are going out there, you're contacting people that don't know you're going to contact them, and you're looking to basically drum up new business opportunities. And you're doing that by pitching your product, but ideally not making it about you, rather making it about the person that you're speaking to. And yeah, it's definitely a case of hunting for the right decision makers, for those accounts that are likely to purchase your product, and then being able to eloquently deliver a pitch that properly conveys the value that you're going to be able to offer them.
So Piers, on that note, how do you do to track the right decision maker?
Sure. So usually you will start off by using a tool. So a lot of people use LinkedIn Sales Nav. If you want to go into a little bit more depth and really hone in on your perfect ICP, then you might use a tool like Cognism or Casper to properly filter for the decision makers and the accounts that are likely to buy. Then you have to do your account research, determine how best to pitch your product to them, and whilst making it about them, not about you, super important, you can then go about starting to sell your product.
Okay, so it's has to be always about them, not about you.
100%, yeah. The amount of times I get cold call these days, it's very flattering. I often get people call me and then just say like, hey, by the way, we do this, I do this, like you should look into our product because, and then they'll give me a very broad description as to what they do, who they work with. It won't be at all relevant to me. So account research is key, especially in 2025 when it's like 2024 was already the year of hyper-personalization. So now we have to try extra hard to break through the noise and ensure that we are delivering value, not just in terms of the product, providing value to the client or prospective client, but also you're providing value during the cold call itself, ensuring that you're getting the prospect to talk about themselves and their processes and their teams, their targets, their objectives, etc.
So what are some of the most common mistakes people make when they start cold calling? Feature
bashing. Definitely. I think feature bashing is the number one most common mistake that SDRs will make. So they'll often call people, as I've mentioned, like in the past, I've been called to have somebody just rattle a bunch of features that don't relate to my job whatsoever or my team. So it's very, very important to try to resist the temptation to just go and list a bunch of things that your products do, and really hone in on what it is that's relevant and interesting to the person that you're speaking to. So you really need to personalize the conversation and start by asking them what it is that they're interested in, what it is that they're looking to achieve, perhaps this quarter, perhaps this financial year, and then once you've got that information, squeeze in mentions of what your features can do and how they can help. If you just go about your cold calling with an attempt to tell them everything you do and book them in for a meeting, and you haven't discovered any pains, then you're going to have very low rates of success.
Okay, well that sounds definitely very reasonable. What have been one of the biggest obstacles that you faced in your career working as a prospecting person, right? That you have overcome, and how?
I mean, aside from not having the mobile for decision makers, I guess often we'll get referred to one person. Even if we do have their mobile number, they'll not pick up the phone. And so it's difficult to then go back to the person that referred you and explain that they haven't picked up the phone. So in those cases, what I would do is I would send a Vidyard or a Loom or any kind of personalized video via LinkedIn, because it's even though these tools have been around for years, you'd be surprised at how uncommon it is to send a personalized video. And so the click rates and even reply rates are really through the roof when people don't have mobile numbers. So that's a good way to capture their attention, because I know that in all salespeople's experience, like it's quite common to have one decision maker that's either blocking a deal and you can't get hold of them, or that's necessary for the deal to go forward and you just haven't spoken to them yet. So yeah, that was definitely an issue for me as an SDR. Sometimes make 40, 50 calls to one person because I really needed them to pick up, and just the moment they pick up, like I'm pretty sure I have all the leverage I need to get that meeting booked. And so, I mean, that stage does just become a bit of a case of persistence, but when persistence fails, I'd resort to hyper-personalization.
Okay. So, okay, you mentioned on something that we haven't heard in this whole, let's say, production that we've done this time, which is sending personalized videos like a Loom or share screen. Do you have any best practices that you can share with our audience?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know sometimes people get a little bit shy about being in the video themselves, but if you do have the option to have a little bubble with your face in it, like it just makes it a little bit more personal. And as with cold calling, you really want to start with what interests them. So if you don't have any leverage to go off, like you don't have any information that you've gathered from calling other people from the company, then just start with the job title and industry and what you know most interests them. So you could even use like Perplexity or ChatGPT, for example, to plug in the job title and industry, ensure that you know, you have a vague idea at least of what it is that they're going to be like top of mind for this particular prospect that you're reaching out to, and then launch with that being a problem. So, for example, if you're going after a sales leader, you're probably going to want to start talking about how pipeline generation is like a key issue right now, and the fact that your tool might be able to help them generate more pipeline. And then once you've made it about them, you can then start showing them. So we do like a very mini demo. I would recommend keeping it to less than 2 minutes, else they probably won't get to the end of the video, which is where your call to action is going to come. So 1 minute to 1 minute 30 is probably about perfect. And the call to action is never going to be to book a meeting, because you haven't actually spoken to this person. That's different to cold calling, right? Because assuming it's your first touch point, the call to action has got to be anything that will get them to respond. So even if it's, what are your thoughts on my video, or given your experience, I'd appreciate your feedback on my outreach. Anything that will have the prospect likely to respond will at least spark the conversation.
Open the conversation.
Exactly. And from there, once you've got them a little bit hooked, then you can start to reel them in and ensure that then you can squeeze in your attempt to close for a meeting, for example.
Right. Can you share with us one of your most memorable success stories back in the day when you were an SDR, and also from now that you are an SDR manager?
Sure. So I started targeting DPD as an SDR, and I had a lot of people say to me, don't bother, you know, we've tried them endlessly, they're not interested. I mean, sometimes this worked against me and other times it worked in my favor. On this occasion, it worked in my favor in that I saw it as a challenge. That everybody had failed to successfully bring in DPD. And so I kept on going at it, and eventually I managed to get hold of somebody who was part of their almost telesales team. And so I did manage to determine exactly which department needed mobile numbers in order to do their outreach. And what frustrated me was that I'd show up to work at the Shard every day, and there'd almost always be a DPD van that was delivering A, B, and C to the offices in the Shard. And it would just fuel my hunger, to book them in. And eventually, they came in after my persistence. It was another case of one decision maker that I'd constantly been referred to, and that one decision maker never picking up the phone. So I kept on calling. I sent some very personalized emails, and I also sent a vidyard, and eventually grabbed their attention. And now they're clients, which is fantastic. So now every time I go back to the Shard, I see a DPD van outside, and it's it reminds me of the fact that I did actually succeed after all the persistence, whilst before it was frustrating me because we hadn't quite got there.
So that's great, obviously, when you see your ideal target as a motivator right there,
literally
in the lobby of your office.
Yeah.
Piers, if you could give one piece of advice to any young SDR, BDR that is starting their career in cold calling, what would it be?
Don't try to be perfect. Everyone who tries to be perfect ends up wasting time. I think it's really important to take risks, to try lots of different strategies. From a sales manager perspective, you want to be testing different cadences to see which messaging works best for your audience. From the SDR's perspective, you want to be trying different approaches, different pitches, different openers on cold calls. And then you can go back and crunch your own data to see what has the best success rates. Then hone in on that strategy and start deploying it at scale. And aside from that, you also really need to keep in mind that personalization is not just key anymore. It's essential. It's critical to having success in this market that's filled with lots of competitors, filled with lots of noise. So to break through the noise, you need to really hone in on your perfect ICP, find those companies that are likely to buy your product, and then go about your pitch in a way that makes it about them and that's personalized to their objectives.
Okay, so well, now that we're on, we've talked a lot about personalization and hyper-personalization. So what has been something surprising that you've learned about human behavior, human psychology in cold calling?
So since starting the role, I've realized how much people mirror energy. So often we'll launch a cold call and they'll sound a little bit disgruntled. They might be really busy. They might be frustrated that they're being called by a number they don't recognize. But the moment we're able to take back control of the energy, we'll notice that they'll respond to that. So whilst it is important to mirror a prospect's energy, if they're in a bad mood, you could even lift their mood within the space of a 10-minute cold call by being a little bit more positive, by being friendly, and by being patient and calm and composed. You'll see, if you try it for yourselves, you'll see how effective it is. So that's something I've noticed. If you sound confident and upbeat, it's likely you'll get a similar response from the prospect, especially after you've effectively delivered the reason for your cold call. Once you've established why you're calling and they've accepted that it's a valid reason that you're calling them, that it's they've determined that it is about work and that you might be able to help them. At that stage, you've got a really good opportunity to take back control of the energy, and you'll notice that they'll end up mirroring it, which really helps us, land positive dispositions on cold calls.
So, Piers, how have sales intelligence tools like Cognism and Casper helped you sharpen your cold calling skills and become more efficient in sales?
So to keep with the hunting theme, speed and accuracy. The fact that we're able to hone in on our best fit prospective companies ensures that we don't waste time contacting companies that aren't likely to buy. Aside from that, even within those companies, we can hone in on the decision makers that are most relevant to the conversations we want to be having with these prospective companies. And so just having that contact data at your fingertips is a very powerful thing. It means that we're able to not waste time on gatekeepers. We're not wasting time with back and forth emailing. We're not having to spend time manually researching the account to find out who the best person to contact is. We're using an AI leverage tool. We're using an AI leverage tool that's using algorithms to determine who best to contact, and then leveraging the information we've gathered from calls with other people at the organization to then have a really impactful conversation with the right decision maker at the right time.
Sales is a game of persistence, right? So what's one weird, different, or quirky strategy that you've used in sales that has actually worked?
Sure. So my dear friend Blaze Phillips, who's moved on from Cognism now, he taught me whilst I was an SDR to use really random pattern interrupts. He would launch a call by saying, hey, first name, and then say that he's just spilled curry all over himself, and that doesn't happen often. It would actually happen 60 times a day. But any kind of random pattern interrupt often will help break through the noise, but also it will have the prospect move from perhaps a busy, frustrated, stressed mindset to a more lighthearted, fun and upbeat mindset. So it can really help change that disposition in a matter of seconds. just to use, maybe not as random as I've just spelled curry on myself, but any kind of pattern interrupt will help you launch the conversation with a positive disposition, which will always help get the outcome that you're looking for.
So Piers, we're just about to wrap up our discussions today. So I have 2 last questions.
Sure.
Okay. So what is your top tip for any SDR or BDR that is watching our episode that want to take their cold calling skills to the next level?
It is a volumes game. However, that said, you need to be doing a high volume with a large amount of personalization as well. It sounds a little bit too much to squeeze into one day, but there's only so much time in a day. But we obviously have these tools nowadays that can help us personalize at scale. So I'd recommend finding the right tools that use AI to help you personalize at scale, because some of these tools these days, Cognism and Casper included, can really help you save time. So honing in your ICP, keeping the volume high, but also keeping the personalization high, perhaps using AI tools to help you achieve that.
Okay, well, that's great advice. Thank you, Piers. So now we reached the end of our episode, and I have just one last question for you.
Sure.
Okay. If you were to go 1 week to a cabin in the woods, you can only take 3 things. What 3 things would you take?
I would take Arthur Dongo, a laptop, and a Jabra headset. Because that way, whilst we're on our workation, we can also be booking a bunch of meetings. It's the best SDR I've ever seen.
Well, Piers, thank you so much for joining us in this episode and sharing all of your valuable advice with us and with all of our viewers.
No problem at all. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. And thank you for watching this episode of On the Hunt. Join us next time where another sales expert will share all their valuable advice with you. Bye.
Ciao.